Hi, welcome to Overtown Minis. I'm your host, Josh. Let me start by saying that I am not a professional painter. I am a mere hobbyist who is learning and evolving as I go, just like you. Today, I am batch painting several of these Hero of the Realm minis that I 3D printed. Off camera, I primed all the minis with a Rust-Oleum 2X paint and primer flat black. Normally I would use my airbrush, but this minis, a rattle can is the most efficient and quickest way to get this done. Well, let's hope that that was this project's only gremlin. My first step is to do a fairly heavy moist brush of Army Painter Ash Gray. It's kind of between a dry brush and a normal paint job. I'm not just hitting the raised edges, but everywhere there are details. This basically is a zenithal highlight. Once I have all the models in this batch done with the gray, I go back over the raised areas with a true dry brush of Army Painter Brain Matter Beige. The effect is that it basically automatically applies shadows, midtones, and highlight when using contrast paints from Citadel and speed paints from Army Painter, which is what I'll be using for this project other than metallics. I learned this method from the Honest Wargamer's YouTube channel. He calls it the slap chop technique. If you haven't checked him out, you probably should take a look at his channel after this video. Speaking of YouTube videos, what's a video without the standard YouTube shill? I'm using a cheap makeup dome brush I found in a pack from Amazon, but any dome brush or dry brush will work for this. Now that I have gotten all of the models sufficiently dry brushed, I start filling in the detail with speed and contrast paints. I did a lot of this off camera, as you can see by the dwarf here, just for the sake of saving time for this video. Anyone in the hobby who has ever used Citadel paints knows that those paint pots will tip and waste paint. I 3D printed this little holder I found on Thingiverse, and it not only prevents the pot from tipping, but it also holds the lid open properly. With speed paints and contrast paints, I tend to go over 2 to 3 times with different coats just to make sure that I have the desired effect. This model is getting the same treatment, just a different color on the cloth. I bought a bulk pack of medicine cups off of Amazon to mix paints for my airbrush in. Turns out they have the additional use with the assistance of some double-sided tape or magnets to be used as a paint handle. Hey, I work as a paramedic for nearly 20 years now, and one of the first things you're taught in EMT or paramedic school is to adapt and overcome. Use the tools you have access to and improvise when needed. So finding additional uses for tools and items I have for my various hobbies have become a fun addition to the primary hobby. Off camera, I added gunmetal to the weapons, plate metal to the plate armor, both from Army Painter, and I used greedy gold on the goblin model that had coins in a sack. I used speed paint on the pallid bone, does great for any of the horns, bones, and flagons. Crusader skin went on dark, but it dried to what I thought looked really good skin tone for these models. I used hardened leather on, well, the leather, and I mixed it with some Gravelord Gray to get a darker brown for the wooden parts of the weapons and the stumps. On a hard palette, I ended up mixing Fire Giant Orange, Yellow Zealot, and Blood Red randomly in different variations, and ended up getting a lot of variations for hair color. From Citadel, I used contrast Pterodon Turquoise for the darker blues, and Erythemaic Blue for the lighter shades. Since I'm using contrast, speed, and metallic paints, I didn't use any of my expensive brushes. I stuck with Army Painter Regiment detail along with a Citadel starter brush. These types of paints can be particularly harsh to brushes, so I didn't use my Sable or my premium synthetic brushes while using these paints. Once I had all the details on the models complete, I went over the textured bases with Agrax Earthshade and finished the rims with my absolute favorite color from Citadel, Incubi Darkness. Then I gave them a good layer of matte varnish to protect all that hard work, and I lined them back up here on the turntable. I didn't attempt to do the eyes on these models, but I may come back at a later date and take care of them. For a project that I only worked 2 or 3 hours a day for 3 days, I think the outcome was pretty good. I would like to give a special thank you to Brent of Gerbertown Hobbies, Dana Howell, Scott the Miniac, Lila Mev the Miniwitch, and Ninjon for teaching me that even I can paint over the years with your various videos and giving me good background noise while I'm painting. If you have any questions, thoughts, or suggestions for my next painting project, let me know in the comments below, and remember to get over that mountain of unpainted minis.